thanks for the kind words. It's a great honor to be standing here today. It's an even great honor to be recognized with such a great group of fellow inductees. I'd like to recognize and thank a few people right off the top. One, the Hall of Fame nomination committee, Commissioner Spirito and Pat Spirito. Doug Smith, your leadership in trying to keep fast pitch alive in New Jersey. It's a great thing. My beautiful wife, Roseanne, who has supported me no matter what. Lots of travel, not always to primo locations. Long, hot weekends. Roseanne was a 4th of July baby. So spending every birthday in Allentown, Pennsylvania, on the hotel by the railroad tracks, she's endured a lot. My mom, sisters Cindy and Kim, Lou and Jim, my brother-in-laws, and my nieces and nephews. My closest friend, Mike. Many of my teammates know. He's the short guy in a wheelchair. Mike used to travel a lot with me. Mike, you've grounded me, inspired me through the years, just with the adversity that you've faced. Our great friends Dan and Maria. And actually it was a surprise today. My friend, boss, Steve Gaffney, traveled there from Texas with Stephanie's daughter and Tommy Gaffney, a good friend. Thank you for being here. So when you play competitive ball, right, you tend to miss a lot of family functions, and I missed many in my 30 years of playing ball. So the fact that you guys are all here means a lot. Man, I thought this was going to be easier to get through. So there's others that couldn't be here today, who I also hold close to my heart. Our kids, Lindsay and Robert, who weren't able to make the trip. My dad. Passed away a long time ago, but instilled all the important values in me. And was with me in spirit. He also played a lot of fast pitch. Okay, that was a hard part. So thinking about how I first became involved in fast pitch, I think anybody who saw me play the first year would never believe I'd be standing up here. In the fast pitch world, if you remember a guy named Charlie Bennett who threw about 45 miles an hour, I couldn't hit. I was terrible. I could run, I could throw, I could field, but if you can't hit in this game, you're not going to go very far. As a teenager, I had a friend named Joey DiGiacomo. I think I was a JV in college playing ball, and he introduced me to this game. Introduced me to his coach, Vinny Folo, gave me my first opportunity to play. And while my skills may have initially fallen short, I was hooked on this game. I think we traveled to our first weekend tournament. I think it was Oakland, Maryland. And I think it was the crowds, I think it was the competition. I think it was probably partly the beer too that attracted me. So I learned my game in the early years from guys like Louis Saccone, who would literally run through fences to catch a ball. And if anybody knows Louis, you know what I'm talking about. Joey DiGiacomo, who had all the tools of any player you would ever want. Steve Clairfield, he would artistically pitch to an opposing team lineup. So a couple of years later, 3 teams, including mine, sort of merged into one, and I In order to get some playing time, I had to move on. So I joined a team in Fairlawn, New Jersey, called the House of Pancakes. They had a great team, but even better people. Guys like Yogi DeVito, Johnny Mizio, Rocco Vizzuzo, just great players. I remember a story Johnny and Rocco told me one day that sort of stayed with me through the years. But here's two high school friends, best friends in high school, got drafted to go to Vietnam, got into different platoons, and then miraculously met on the battlefield one day. I get goosebumps thinking about that story when they told it to me. Those guys were warriors to play with. After a couple of years with IHOP, my former teammate and coach, Nicky Mita, was putting together a team to compete in the Eastern Shore League against some of the best teams in the U.S. I think I was 23 at the time, and I gladly accepted the opportunity to play second base for Nick. He put together a great team, recruited a couple of Canadian pitchers, the Walker brothers, from Toronto. We traveled every weekend for 4 summers, and facing the likes of Ty Stofflet and the Pennsylvania Sounders, Owen Wolford, nicknamed the Fog from New Zealand, from the Ray Bestis Cardinals of Connecticut, the Poughkeepsie Brewers, the Worcester Battery Men, the Fox Hill. But I played with and learned from some great players those years. Some are here in the room today. Ronnie Kist was one of the best catchers I've ever seen. Ronnie had a playbook. We had more pickoff plays than the New York Giants. We had to let the umpire know not to call timeout because we had a play going on. Ronnie had read the rule book and knew the rules, and Joey DiGiacomo, who passed away a couple of years ago. Joey was one of the best clutch hitters in the U.S. Ricky Popowski was a feared power hitter for many years. So for 4 years, we dominated New Jersey fast pitch. One year going 86-12. We go to the national tournament and lose 2 1-0 games. What a crazy game this is. Nick Mita was a great coach, sponsor, and person, and he elevated the game of fast pitch in New Jersey in the 80s. Our New Jersey team merged with the Reading, Pennsylvania Sounders in '84, and I got a chance to play with the best fast pitch pitcher ever, and that was Ty Stofflet. It was just an honor to watch him pitch and play behind him. So after returning from a 2-year work assignment in Nebraska, Bill Miller asked me to join his team, his graphics team. What an honor to play for Bill Miller. He is one of the game's finest gentlemen. He afforded me to play great competition and travel throughout the U.S. and Canada. Bill put lots of energy, time, money into his passion. Bill continually improved the team each year, adding some of the best New Jersey talent, but he also started recruiting out of Canada. So before long, we had a couple of Canadian pitchers and then a couple of Canadian players. And then before long, Roseanne and I were commuting to Toronto to play softball because there was only a couple of U.S. players left on the team. For those 15 years were lots of fun, and I think as Dennis Green accurately described it a couple of years ago in his induction speech, we were like a family. Wives and kids were always at the games and the tournaments. Being a single father through some of those years, I brought my kids and nephews, sometimes even my niece. I was very grateful for getting help from my teammates' wives. Some here today. Monica, Barbara, Sally, Debbie, Lynn, Jen. So I played with a lot of great players and friends through the years, current Hall of Fame members, as I mentioned, Ronnie Kist and Ricky, Dennis Green and Dave Palumbo. I'm sure there's some future Hall of Famers in this group that's gathered today. Roy Corbin, who couldn't be here today, Alan Esperin, Eddie Leonard, Frank and Gary Fury, Frankie and Nicky Mita, Mark, Larry, Mike, Scott, Moose, Isaac. Sorry if I left anyone out. The list goes on and on. John G. was always a consistent presence in running the team. Funzy passed away at the ballpark one night in Myersville. Will always be remembered. Mr. Bowerbank, for all he did for Roseanne and I through the years. come to the end, I'm sorry. It may have been the crowds and the competition and the beer that originally drew me that first year I played. But it was the friendships with all those players, coaches, teammates, my extended family that kept me coming back in the 30 years that followed. The moments I carry with me are many. Some of these are a little corny, so please bear with me. But I will especially remember playing in so many national and international tournaments. Playing so long that I played with many father and son combinations. Sitting outside the hotel room with the guys, drinking a few cold ones, talking about our successes and mistakes during the day. The tingling feeling of stepping onto a fully manicured field before an important game. Turning a double play, executing a run and bunt, hearing a pop of the catcher's glove with an ace pitching. For the pitchers, picking up the pitcher's pitches by studying the mechanics. Playing 3 or 4 games in the dreaded loser's bracket. The excitement of standing in the batter's box opposite a stud pitcher like a Zach or a Stafford or a Fogg. Competing and playing with the best of the best. And lastly, knowing that in addition to my own family, I have this great family to share memories with. Thank you. Thank you, Bobby.